Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding.
They have a bunch of dishonest people. They've created ISIS. Hillary Clinton created ISIS with Obama. Created with Obama.
I told you guys. A few days ago, I made a video explaining to you guys how Obama's government, through the USAID, allegedly worked with APC to remove Goodluck Jonathan and destroy Nigeria's $680 billion economy. And I told you guys how they created and funded Boko Haram to destabilize Goodluck Jonathan's government. Some of you came into my comment section crying, calling me names. Well, look at the truth gradually coming out. A US Congressman, Scott Berry, has openly stated that the USAID has been funding terrorist organizations, including Boko Haram. Read that again. A US Congressman, Scott Berry, in a video, has openly stated that the USAID has been funding terrorist organizations, including Boko Haram.
Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel, entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan, because Pakistan's right next door. USAID spent $840 million in the last 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. It includes $136 million to build 120 schools, of which there is zero evidence that any of them were built. Why would there be any evidence? The Inspector General can't get in to see them. But you know what? We doubled down and spent $20 million from USAID to create educational television programs for children unable to attend the physical school. Yeah, they can't attend it because it doesn't exist. You paid for it. Somebody else got the money. You are paying for terrorism. This has got to end. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Do you now understand why Obama's judge ordered the immediate destruction of the document that Elon Musk, okay, some of you said I should not call him Elon Musk discovered at the US Treasury, and why his access to the Treasury was blocked with immediate effect? The same USAID that pretends to be an aid agency has been funneling millions of dollars into terrorist groups like Boko Haram, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda. So tell me, who is lying? Because someone will settle down and make a video. Some of you will just sit down to discredit the video. They created Boko Haram, financed it just to score a political point. And it is the same script all the time. And Africans will never learn. The West will create this problem and later appear as the saviors of the same crisis they created. That is how they created HIV and COVID-19 and then came back with the so-called solution. They fund terrorists and later claimed to be fighting terrorism. And I've asked this question before. Do you really think that if the US want to help Nigeria to fight terrorism, that terrorism will still be an issue in Nigeria today? People that were in their country and saw where their kidnapped US citizens were taken to inside the bush, and instantly they sent their military force to go rescue their citizens inside the bush, and they did that without no effort or stress. We want to help you fight terrorism. Since how many years? And terrorism is still a very big issue in Nigeria. The truth is that Scott Berry just confirmed what David Hundeyin and other independent journalists have been saying for years. Chibok Girls and the Bring Back Our Girls campaign was funded by Obama and the radical left, and all of that was to put someone who will serve their interests in power. Before we continue, let me let you guys watch this video from President Putin.
Это односторонние действия, и они применяются постоянно в текущей политике Соединенных Штатов и приводят к кризисам. Я тоже об этом сказал. Вот президент Обама упомянул об одной из угроз, это ИГИЛ. Ну а кто помогал вооружать людей, которые в Сирии боролись с Асадом-то? Кто создавал благоприятный политический информационный климат? Кто подталкивал к поставкам оружия? А вы чего, разве вы не понимаете, кто там воюет? Там воюют наемники. В основном. Вы знаете, что там платят деньги? И они воюют там, где платят больше. Вот они вооружились, им платят определенную сумму. Мне даже называли эти суммы, которые им платят. Они там воюют уже с оружием, все, у них уже не отнимешь. Потом выяснилось, что в другом месте чуть-чуть начали побольше платить. Они там туда перетекут. Вот они захватили месторождения нефтяные, там, скажем, где-то в Ираке или в Сирии. Нефть начали добывать. У них эту нефть покупают, транспортируют, продают. Почему санкции не накладывают на всех, кто это делает? А что, разве Соединенные Штаты не знают, кто это делает? Это разве не их союзники этим занимаются? У них что, нет силы, возможности повлиять на своих союзников? Или они не хотят влиять? Зачем они бомбят ИГИЛ? Вот там начали нефть добывать и больше платить. И там часть сразу этих боевиков перетекла из так называемой цивилизованной оппозиции, сразу же перетекла в ИГИЛ, потому что там больше платят. Я считаю, что это абсолютно невыверенная, непрофессиональная политика, без опоры на реалии. Надо поддержать цивилизованную демократическую оппозицию в Сирии. Ну, поддержали, дали оружие. А завтра половина боевиков оттуда ушла и перешла в ИГИЛ. Что, нельзя было об этом подумать чуть-чуть пораньше? Вот мы против такой политики Соединенных Штатов. Мы считаем, что она ошибочна, наносит ущерб всем, в том числе и вам. Что касается учета наших интересов, то нам бы очень хотелось, чтобы такие люди, как вы, возглавили Государственный департамент. И, может быть, тогда удастся как-то изменить ситуацию. Если этого не произойдет, я бы очень вас просил довести это до наших партнеров, и до президента Соединенных Штатов, и до...
Alright, it is a very long video and I can't play it all for you guys. I know that some of you don't understand what he was saying, but I want to believe that you saw what were being written. Now, this is not even the first time America has been caught funding terrorism. If you have been paying attention, you will see a clear pattern. They create the crisis, then they pretend to be the saviors. It is the same script every time. In 1980, the US trained and armed a group of Afghan fighters called the Mujahideen. The US gave them weapons, intelligence, and funding to fight against the Soviet Union. At the time, America called them freedom fighters. They were praised as heroes. But after the war ended, those same fighters evolved into Al-Qaeda. Guess who was at the center? Osama bin Laden. The same Osama bin Laden who later became America's #1 enemy. They trained him, they funded him, and when the time was right, they turned on him. Now let's look at what happened with ISIS. After the Iraq War in 2003, America removed Saddam Hussein. The country fell into chaos. Suddenly, a group called ISIS emerged out of nowhere. They had military-grade weapons, funding, and global influence. Where did they get all of that power? That is what Putin was saying. A leaked Pentagon report later confirmed that many ISIS fighters were armed with US military weapons. Even Donald Trump himself admitted that Obama and Hillary Clinton created ISIS. Watch the video because I'm not making things up.
They're burning down the Saudi embassy. You see that. Now, what that is Iran wants to take over Saudi Arabia. They always have. They want the oil, okay? They've always wanted that. They have a bunch of dishonest people. They've created ISIS. Hillary Clinton created ISIS with Obama. Created with Obama.
I didn't say that. Donald Trump said it 8 years ago. And now we have the same story with Boko Haram. And so many of us have said it several times in the past and we were called names, but now we have proof. Congress Scott Berry confirmed that $679 million US annually was flowing into terrorist training camp, madrasas and extremist network. And who was in charge of the USAID at the time? Barack Obama. Let's connect the dot. Who funded Boko Haram? USAID. Who benefited from Boko Haram's destruction of Nigeria? APC. Who refused to sell weapons to Goodluck Jonathan when he needed them? Obama. This was never about fighting terrorism. I said it the other day. It was about using terrorism as a political weapon to remove Jonathan. Before Boko Haram became a full-blown crisis, Nigeria was one of the fastest growing economy in Africa. Under Jonathan, Nigeria economy was worth 680 billion. Foreign investors were pouring in. The naira was stable. Things were moving forward. But Jonathan had a problem. He wasn't a Western puppet. He was too independent. He wasn't playing America's game. So what happened? They turned Boko Haram into a monster to destabilize his government. They refused to sell Jonathan weapons to fight the terrorists. They used the Chibok girls kidnapping to create global outrage against him. They pushed APC forward as an alternative, and Nigerians fell for it. Jonathan was removed, APC took over, and what happened? Boko Haram became stronger, APC destroyed the economy, Fulani herdsmen started taking over land, insecurity got worse, kidnappings become an everyday thing. The same people who cried for Jonathan to step down suddenly had nothing to say about what is happening in the country today. Now, the most interesting part, Donald Trump and Elon Musk are now exposing what USAID was really doing. Elon Musk called USAID a viper's nest of radical left who hate America. Trump's new Department of Government Efficiency is investigating how the USAID funded millions into groups like Boko Haram. They are digging up all the secrets.
We're going to be signing a very important deal today. It's Doge, and I'm going to ask Elon to tell you a little bit about it and some of the things that we found, which are shocking. Billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. And I think it's very important. And that's one of the reasons I got elected. I said, we're going to do that. Nobody had any idea it was that bad, that sick, and that corrupt. And it seems hard to believe that judges want to try and stop us from looking for corruption, especially when we found hundreds of millions of dollars worth, much more than that, in just a short period of time. We want to weed out the corruption. And it seems hard to believe that a judge could say, we don't want you to do that.
So, do you now see the bigger picture? USAID was never about helping Nigeria or any African country. And do you even know, like, the interesting part of this whole thing is that Nigeria is not even the only country where the US has used this strategy. I said it the other time, they have been doing it for decades, funding terror groups, destabilizing nations, and then pretending to be the solution. Look at Libya. I made mention of it in my previous video. Before NATO's intervention in 2011, Libya was one of the most prosperous African nations. Gaddafi had built a strong economy, free healthcare, free education, and a stable society. But Gaddafi was a problem for the West. He was too independent. He wanted Africa to have its own currency, backed by gold, which would have threatened Western financial dominance. So what did they do? They armed and funded rebel groups under the pretense of freedom. The same America that called Gaddafi a dictator was secretly sending weapons to jihadists to overthrow him. When Libya finally collapsed, those same fighters later became ISIS-affiliated militias. Today, Libya is a failed state, a breeding ground for terrorists, and even has open-air slave market. But America has moved on, pretending like they had nothing to do with it. Now, coming back to Nigeria, the US under Obama didn't need to invade like they did in Libya. They didn't need to send in military like they did in Iraq. All they had to do was fund Boko Haram, create insecurity, and make Nigerians desperate for change. And when the time was right, they pushed APC forward as the only alternative. Think about it. Why did Obama refuse to sell weapons to Jonathan when he needed them? If the US was truly fighting terrorism, they blocked Nigeria from getting the tools to defeat Boko Haram. Yet, as soon as Buhari came into power, those same restrictions were lifted. Why? Because by then, the mission had been accomplished. Jonathan was gone. Nigeria was back under their control. Now, Elon Musk and Donald Trump team are exposing all of this. Musk has repeatedly said that USAID is not an aid agency. It is a front for CIA operations. He has accused USAID of funding bioweapon research, including COVID-19. But here is my question. Will these criminals ever be held accountable? And more importantly, will Nigerians finally wake up and stop falling for the same trick over and over again? Because here is the truth. If we don't learn from the past, they will do it again and again. The same way they used Boko Haram in 2015, they will create another crisis for 2027. They can push another puppet into power, and some Nigerians will still fall for it. The only way to break this cycle is to wake up, expose the agenda, and refuse to be manipulated. Because the future of Nigeria depends on it. Learn to understand that the West will never give you democracy. They will give you controlled chaos, create the problem, fund the destruction, and then step in as the solution. So, the choice is ours, and that is it for you all, my people. I saw the news and I decided to come share with you all. With all of that being said, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye-bye. Bye.